to our aerodynamic series. So before we begin, I think it's important you guys know how we're getting all of our data. And for temperatures, like the engine intake temp and the coolant temp, we use the car's factory sensors hooked up to HP tuners to data log it so we know what those temps are. And then for lap times, we use Harry's lap timer with an external GPS, which I've tested against the timing beam lights at an autocross and found it to be very accurate. So that's what we use to collect our data. Those of you who have been with us since the beginning will remember that the Firebird had some serious overheating problems. The engine overheated initially, the power steering pump would boil over, and the brakes would overheat at its very first shakedown runs at the Hockenheimring back in 2009. And we solved the brake problem by going to big 14-inch Brembos, and the power steering pump was easy. We just slowed it down until it quit overheating. And the engine was a little bit more work. We had to take the AC condenser off the car so that we got more airflow through the radiator, and I changed out the coolant for a 90-10 mixture of water to water wetter. And with those mods, the car at the Nürburgring was absolutely just perfect temperature-wise. We'd go under a bridge at about 180, 185 water temp, and then approximately 8 minutes later, we'd come screaming back under gantry, and it would be reading right at 235. So that's where the car was at when I brought it back to the States to start doing stateside track days, which are a whole different beast because the car had to run for longer than 8 minutes at a time without overheating. So the first thing I did was I extended the air dam down with some old license plates. The idea was to create a larger high pressure area to force more air through the radiator. Now, it doesn't do you any good if the radiator's not sealed, and that was a key thing that I didn't get when I removed the AC condenser, is that there were big gaps that opened up on either side of the radiator and up at top that air was escaping around. So I got some of that spray sealant from Lowe's for your attic and some of these soft touch pipe insulators that work really good for sealing up along the sides of the radiator. And those two mods together had a secondary effect that was pretty beneficial, which is the car at stoplights with everything removed would see like 130 degrees air intake temps. Once I sealed everything, and then with my pin-on hood so that the air intake had a straight shot out into open air, I was seeing intake air temps that were only 5, never more than 10 degrees above ambient temperatures, even sitting at a stoplight. So a huge improvement there. So the first track test was at the Corvette Museum, and I had the pin-on hood and I had the full air dam with the canards on each side and everything all sealed up, and brake ducts as well to help cool down the brakes. And I know the brake ducts were working because the brake pedal feel with the ducts in place was significantly more consistent. And the engine was running much cooler, but it was a relatively cool day on our first test. We had no overheating problems whatsoever. However, what we ran into was that the hood was tacoing up in the middle. I don't know how to describe it other than that, but I don't know if it was pressure underneath or if it was suction from the top, because the hood is kind of shaped like a wing over the top, and so it creates a low pressure area. But the hood was getting sucked up in the middle such that the sides of the hood were tucking into the fenders, and I'd come back off track and you couldn't get the hood open because it was jammed in between the fenders. So to solve this problem, I cut holes in the hood, right? Easy solution. And so that prevented it from tacoing, but it got a good bit of vibration. And then, just on a whim, because I was looking at somebody else's car, I saw these little spoilers, and I thought, man, I wonder what that would do. And so we duct taped all these little strings to the car. For 100% sure, the most surprising part of this whole aerodynamic project was how much of a difference those little spoilers made. And here you can see in the video, just 15 miles an hour, it's already starting to pick the strings up out of those nostrils and pull more air from under the hood. Whereas previously, without anything up there, the air is pretty much stagnant all the way up to about 80 miles an hour. So then for the final test of the car, the same 75-degree day that we tested the car at the Nürburgring and recorded temperatures 75 degrees at Barbara Motorsports Park, we ran it for 30 minutes with the little flicks on the hood pulling air out from underneath, and the water temp never exceeded 205 degrees. So we made a huge improvement, and I think we invested less than $50 total in materials, and we managed to avoid spending $800 on a massive new radiator for the car. So stay tuned for episode 2, where we get into the actual lap time data and We basically have 3 different things that we try out on the car. We got that rear lip spoiler that you've seen in pictures, and then the front canards, and then we also built an under tray for the car. And not to spoil it, but one of the aero mods cost us time. One of the aero mods was totally neutral on time, and one of the aero mods saved us almost 2 seconds a lap. So stay tuned for next time. Thanks for watching.